Wedding is a celebration that every girl dreams of. However, there are not so many suitable candidates, because of which one guy can become the object of desire of 100 girls. This applies to Korn, a doctor who loves children and is the most enviable groom in the neighborhood. Hundreds of girls in wedding dresses are ready to do anything to catch and marry him, but only one will succeed. Inin is a very popular blogger who does food reviews and talks about herself and her life in parallel. During one of her live shows, she talks about her best friend Noina, a beautiful and naive girl who dreams of getting married. In9 is genuinely happy for her because the girl has a fiancé who can be a good husband. At the same time, Noin returns from another date and sees that her boyfriend is chatting with another girl, having made an appointment with her. Soon she realizes that he is a cheater and a traitor, so she breaks off the relationship and informs her friend about it, demanding support. Abandoning everything, Inin rushes to her as she suddenly meets sexy Korn, forgetting about where she was going. The girl falls in love with him at first sight and does not realize that Korn is trying to save a man who has become ill. He asks her for a bottle of water, but instead, Inin gives him her hand and declares that she is ready to become his wife. Meeting her friend, Inin supports Noin in her time of need and offers to dream about how they would take revenge on the traitor and his mistress. Desperate, Nuna gets drunk, and even her nephew makes jokes about her appearance. Learning that her friend regularly goes to a fortune teller for predictions, Noin meets the woman and asks her to give a false prediction, promising to clean her room in exchange. Vice is a rich, beautiful, and popular girl who seems very nice on social media. Such she pretends to be only in public, because in reality, Vice is a very angry and harmful girl who thinks she is better than others. Innanen takes her place in the parking lot and Vice decides to quarrel with her. Inine does not allow herself to be offended and gives a decent fight back. A couple of days later, Knowing asks her friend for a meeting. Inine has to interrupt the broadcast unexpectedly, but she forgets to turn off the camera and spits out the product she was advertising. This creates a big problem for the blogger, as viewers have exposed the deception and realized that she is advertising the product for money, even though it is terrible. Fans turn their backs on Inin, causing all the companies to cancel their contract with her. In an instant, she loses everything and no longer has the money to support herself. Meeting a friend in a cafe, N9 needs her support and knowing allows her debt to go unpaid. Nune reveals that she has fallen in love and shows a picture of a guy who turns out to be the same Korn. Despite being in love, N9 decides not to think about the guy and goes with her friend to a fortune teller. She asks the woman to play along, and the fortune teller declares that Noem will get married this year and her fiancé will be a doctor. Realizing that it is about Korn, Noem becomes happy. Noem goes for interviews and looks for a job when suddenly she meets Vice in the elevator. They fight again, after which Vice uses her popularity to damage Inan's reputation. She calls the boss with whom the girl had an interview, as a result of which she is rejected. Shortly thereafter, it is revealed that Korn and Vice are a bride and groom whose wedding is to take place in 46 days. Dreaming of getting revenge on Vice and helping Noina, Inan promises to do anything to disrupt the wedding and help her friend become Korn's wife. The next morning, Korn comes to Noin's bakery to buy the pastries he buys every day. As she tries to get to know the guy better, the girl realizes that he is an incredibly kind man and buys food to make an offering to a temple nearby. Dreaming of such a husband, Noin asks Sinin to help make sure they are together and promises her friend to forgive her impressive debt. In9 is well prepared and has devised a whole plan by which she will disrupt the wedding and make Korn fall in love with her best friend. Before starting to realize the plan, the girls decide to talk to a more experienced person. Inan's mother is married to two men and knows everything about them, so she gives her daughter and her friend a couple of sound advice. After that, Pang's older brother, who is a makeup artist, decides to help the girls change their appearance. They are transformed into beauties, but go to the temple, hoping to meet Korn. The monks look at the girls with suspicion and assume they are sinners, so Inan and Noin leave in a hurry. On their way home, Inan gets a call from a guy she has been hanging out with, only to have another fight with her. The job of Vice's assistants remains extremely difficult. After all, she is a terrible, nasty, and extremely demanding person. Pretending to be good in public, Vice is simply unbearable in communication with her subordinates and also often plays on the phone, succumbing to addiction. In the evening, Vice goes to dinner with Korn and her parents, unaware that Inin and Noin are hiding nearby, watching the pair. During the dinner, Vice continues to pretend to be too good, but this naivety annoys Korn because he dreams of children and the girl is adamantly against it. Farewell becomes a show-off because the guy needs to hug and kiss Vice on camera, which is very tiring. Having thought up a new stage of the plan, Inin disguises herself and pretends to be a student who needs to write a dissertation on the relationship between men and women. She asks Korn to give her a short interview and he agrees, realizing that he needs to adapt to the fact that his wife is a public figure. During the conversation, the girl asks to talk about her acquaintance with Vice and learns that the couple has known each other since childhood. They were brought together by their parents, and in high school, the girl suggested him to date. Soon their parents approved their marriage, so the couple prepares to get married. Inin is shocked that most of the decisions were made by Vice and the parents, but not Korn, so she doubts the sincerity of his feelings. At one point, the doctor seems to recognize the girl, so Inin runs away in a hurry. The next morning, she decides to introduce Noin and Korn closer. Using makeup and pretending to be her friend's aunt, Inin organizes a car accident and sends Noin to negotiate with the injured guy. The girl is too shy and doesn't know how to start a conversation, so she constantly apologizes for the inconvenience. Observing this from the outside, Inin decides to take the situation into her own hands and intervenes in the dialogue. She introduces the couple, and it turns out that they have seen each other before, as Korn was treating Noin's nephew. In the course of the conversation, the girl asked for her phone number in case they need to discuss the accident, and they agree to part ways without waiting for the police and insurance agents. On returning home, Noin feels awkward and is afraid to call her boyfriend, as girls don't do that first. Knowing her friend will be coy, Noini confesses that she planted her purse in Korn's car. Just then, the doctor calls and informs her of this, suggesting a meeting. The next evening, Noin goes to a cafe to wait for a meeting with Korn and get her purse back. The girl tries with all her might to delay him, but cannot think of an excuse for the man to linger. At the same time, Inin arranges with the waiter to temporarily block the entrance to the cafe. Korn can't get out and is forced to linger until the door is fixed. Noin offers him dinner, and the guy gladly accepts the idea because he was going to eat somewhere. This allows the couple to socialize and bond, getting to know each other better. Korn does not use alcohol at all, but in one of the dishes he still had it, because of which the guy is drunk and does not control himself. Inine is shocked by his behavior, and she decides to intervene, but Noin thinks the guy is cute and also drinks extra. Meanwhile, Vice continues to bully his subordinates, because of which one of the assistants cannot stand it and drinks a glass, after which she leaves, realizing that she can be fired. After sitting in the cafe, Korn and Noin ask for a ride home. Before getting into the car, the guy shocks the girl by deciding to take a shower right outside and pouring a glass of cold water on himself. After struggling to get the doctor into the car, she takes him to the hotel and tries to find the right room. Once on the doorstep, she meets Vice and hides her face, pretending to be the driver. After dragging Korn to the bed, Anin would like to escape, but Vice asks her to stay longer and promises to pay her generously for it. Vice is bored and lonely. Moreover, she doesn't much want to marry a guy like Korn, but has no choice. During the course of the conversation, Inin complies with all of Vice's paid requests and even shows sympathy for her. Back in the parking lot, Inin finds out that her boyfriend called her. He is constantly playing computer games and invites the girl to his place exclusively as a maid to clean up and cook dinner. Supporting her boyfriend financially, Inin gives away all the money she earns and returns home only at dawn. Upon meeting her brother, she notices the abrasions on his face and realizes that not everyone accepts his choice to be a girl, reacting aggressively to Pan. Discovering the money in her blouse, Inin realizes that her brother is supporting her in her time of need and feels a sense of gratitude. Waking up the next morning, Vice calls her assistants and demands that they come urgently. The girl is not a housewife and is completely unable to cook, but she does not want her fiancé to know about it. She orders the assistants to buy and warm up ready-made food and prepare everything, after which Vice sets the table and invites Korn to have breakfast. During the conversation, she admits that the cab driver turned out to be a very nice and kind person because he did not leave him in trouble. Korn shocks the bride when he informs her that the man was Anin. While Korn is working at the hospital and chatting with his best friend about the upcoming bachelor party, In comes up with another plan. First, the girls go to a temple for a service and pray for the guy to dump Vice, after which In arranges with a cab driver to temporarily become the driver of his car and take Korn's order. Hiding his face with a mask and wig, In gives the guy a ride and chats with him, trying to figure out if he loves Vice or not. Using her anonymity, the girl hints to Korn that he will soon meet his true love, but realizes that the plan is unlikely to work because the guy is too modest and feels obliged to his choice. In the evening, In goes on a date with the boyfriend and his parents. He does not court the girl at all and does not show signs of attention. Instead of being more serious, the guy quits his job and gets into another adventure. He does not want children and is not ready for family life, but In pretends that she does not need it either. The next morning, the girl decides to resume her job as a blogger and gets a product to promote. Her broadcast is full of sadness and longing, and most of the viewers think the girl is a mean-spirited fraud. As a result, only a few dozen people watch her instead of the usual thousands of subscribers. When In tries to promote a product, everything shuts down and only one viewer remains. Depressed, the girl closes her laptop and can hardly hold back her tears. Korn writes to her and asks her to resume the broadcast because the only viewer was a little girl in his office who adores In and considers her her best friend. Realizing that one viewer is worth the attention, In returns to the air, which pleases both the patient and Korn, who feels sympathy for her. Soon her brother, mother, and her two husbands return home, causing the family to quarrel. The woman still can't choose who to live with, and this upsets Einen, so she leaves home. Meanwhile, Vice chooses a wedding organizer and orders her assistant to help her so that the celebration turns out to be chic and expensive. In the evening, In has dinner and tries to eat her stress away as she suddenly meets Korn, who is passing by. He is in a hurry to meet his students, but decides to linger to thank the girl. He talks about seeing the broadcast of a family fight and realizes how not easy it is. Realizing that he has time, Korn decides to spend some more time with In, and the pair have dinner together, discussing their lives and the small problems that stand in their way. To cheer the girl up, Korn tells her about his friend Pat, a creepy womanizer and loser. After chatting, In admits that the doctor is a very nice and pleasant man, but does not want to admit that she feels sympathy for him. Korn spends the entire next day at his parents' house and feels depressed. He is frustrated that they rarely communicate with Vice, and he begins to feel that they have nothing in common. The girl does not want to have children, is constantly fixated on her popularity and money, so she tries to show the audience both herself and her personal life, which is not much to Korn's liking. The mother offers to build a house on their property so that the parents can support the young family and take care of them in a difficult period, as well as gently influence Vice and change her opinion about the children. The mother also asks to know the details of the wedding because it is important to her that the family spends this day together. Vice plans everything without the groom's involvement and throws a tantrum, pretending to be unhappy when he tries to get involved in organizing the wedding. Meanwhile, In continues to transform Nguyen into the perfect bride. To do this, she forbids her from using brightly colored makeup and eating heavy food because it is important that her figure be perfect like Vice's. Trying to come up with a new plan, the girls decide to use Peep's nephew because the doctor loves children and works as a pediatrician. Going to the hospital, they force the boy to pretend to be sick, but he exposes the aunt and her friend, saying they are lying. To their delight, Korn assumes the boy is lying because he is afraid of doctors and doesn't want to be examined. Convinced that Pape is healthy, the doctor releases the boy, but the girls insist on having coffee. Unexpectedly, they are joined by his friend Pat, who shows sympathy for Noina and openly demonstrates his interest in the beautiful and free girl. In turn, the friends assume that Pat is not a bad person and can be useful to them. Upon returning home, In constantly quarrels with his older brother because of the fact that each protects his father. In the evening, Pan's father comes to the club where his son works and rips off his false eyelashes. The man is upset that his son is pretending to be a girl, but he is willing to turn a blind eye if he can help separate his spouse from Yining's father. In an attempt to find a new way to meet Korn, In and Nunit make an arrangement with the school principal to hold a lesson with the doctor. They have to pay for it themselves as the school lacks funding. In the evening, Korn returns home and gets caught up in yet another reality show involving his fiancée. He is fed up with the constant filming and strangers filming everything that happens. Korn would like a quiet and peaceful family life somewhere outside the city, but the girl is categorically against it because she needs to see the stars. Korn realizes that in fact it was not her who cleaned the house, and all that is happening is a show, because of which the couple quarrels. The next morning, Enin and Noin try to arrange a lesson, but the administrator forbids distracting the doctors. The girls decide to take advantage of Pat's naivety and ask him to convince Korn to accept their offer. Korn is happy to meet the children and agrees to speak at the school. At the same time, he is met by a delivery man who brings another food delivery from his fiancée. She bought foods that he won't eat since he is completely unaware of the groom. Vice sees the video report and gets angry when he notices the loser blogger in next to Korn. Not to be outdone, Vice promises to do everything he can to finally destroy Inin and her reputation. At the same time, Inin cleans the fortune teller's house, keeping her promise. The woman sees the fate of the girl and is ready to tell about what the future holds for her. But Inin does not want to hear anything, so that all decisions and consequences are spontaneous. Trying to support her boyfriend's idea, the girl buys a product to put on sale and work well at it. Despite her best efforts, the boyfriend does not support the idea and flatly refuses to sell a cheap and unpopular product, believing that he deserves something better. In the evening, Vice and Korn have dinner during the live broadcast, gathering tens of thousands of subscribers at the screens. Noin looks enviously at the couple in love and has no idea how much the guy dislikes everything that is happening. He is angry at Vice when he learns that their wedding will have 50 strangers guests who accidentally won an invitation to the ceremony. Korn is ready to argue with his fiancée, but she presses his conscience and pity as usual, resulting in him winning the argument again. Noin decides to be more active, pretending that all their meetings are accidental. She waits for Korn at the morning run, at the hospital, and at the cafe, but almost everywhere they are interrupted by Pat, who interferes in their dialogue. Only in the cafe does Noina manage to catch the doctor alone, resulting in their lunch and conversation. With only 34 days left before the wedding, Noin organizes a meeting between the schoolchildren and the doctors. Inden and Noin ask Pape to play along as much as possible and promise a whole box of sweets if the nephew is believable in his role. While admiring Korn, Noine imagines she is expecting a child with him and doesn't notice that there are plenty of people around paying attention to her. Pape is not interested in listening to children's tales, for he dislikes lies and fiction. Realizing that children only want the truth, Korn proposes to create a fairy tale in which the plot will be planned by schoolchildren. As the story progresses, Korn and Inan's dolls kiss, which makes the couple feel awkward. Vice decides to show her superiority over Inan and her friend here as well. After paying the principal, she and her assistants break into the party and bribe the children with expensive gifts. Inan and Noin regain their interest by dancing, but here too, Vice is not about to give up. Pat is kindly jealous of his friend and explains that they are all competing for his attention, so the guy has the right to choose. Later, Vice decides to do a live broadcast and doesn't look at the fact that Korn doesn't like it. Pat is clearly not thrilled with his friend's fiancé, and the girls decide to use this to team up with him against a common enemy. Thanking the doctors for the visit, Pape asks Korn to marry Inan, and it seems that he would be happy about it. In the evening, Inan's father asks him to do whatever it takes to get his mother to choose him over Pape's father. Korn again tries to talk to the bride, but their conversation turns into a scandal, after which the girl again presses pity so that the groom does not interfere in the organization of the wedding. In the evening, he decides to have a drink in the nearest bar and meets Inan at the entrance, trying to dare to have a conversation with his older brother. Once at the bar, Korn learns about the difficult relationship between Inan and her brother. Realizing how important it is to have mutual understanding, he asks the girl to make peace with Pan and not be afraid to make the first step. Obeying the doctor, the girl apologizes to her sister and they manage to reconcile. They realize that their fathers are competing for their mother's attention, but decide not to interfere in their relationship and value their friendship. At the same time, a drunken Korn convinces the bar owner to give Pan a chance to perform on stage and realize his dream. When Pan performs, everyone cheers and applauds, and it seems like a successful debut. When they return home, they are attacked by hooligans, but Korn and Einan fight back and then flee and hide behind one of the cars. not realizing that assistant Vice has been following them. Back to his boyfriend, Bunyan continues to pay for all his purchases, but realizes that he is wasting his time and money. Seeing that it is impossible to create a normal relationship and family with him, the girl decides that it is easier to break up and leaves. Having learned that Vice is looking for an assistant to organize a wedding reality show, In goes for an interview. She realizes that there is no chance, but is still upset when she doesn't get a call. Having met with her brother, In tells about her problem, as suddenly Vice's assistant calls and informs her that she has been approved for the position of the third assistant. It turns out that Vice just wants to keep the enemy close to control her. Pan is worried as the director and co-workers only applauded him because of Korn, but actually think his singing is terrible. Meanwhile, Knowing continues to look for an opportunity to meet Korn. She is met by Pat and promises to arrange a meeting with her best friend, but ends up eating her cake and openly showing affection. Noin is obsessed with Korn and doesn't notice it, so she is angry at Pat for deceiving her from the beginning. Soon, Inan takes up his duties and attracts Noin as another assistant. They organize a photo shoot for the soon-to-be married couple and help Korn relax so that he looks happy in the photo. At some point, Noina gets bored and Vise asks her to leave the set. Realizing that she might get fired too, Inan asks her friend to leave. At the same time, it becomes clear that Korn doesn't feel happy at all, and it's evident in every shot. Pan convinces his boss to let him out on stage so he and his father can give his mother a gift. They offer her to live as a family and move to another city, but the woman is in no hurry to make a decision. It's all about Inan inviting her to a restaurant and organizing a surprise together with her father. The man makes Inan's mother a marriage proposal, presenting her with a luxury car. The woman does not know which of the husbands to choose, so here too, she asks for time to think. After learning that they are secretly helping their fathers, Pan and Inan fight, almost strangling each other. A few days later, Vice decides to organize a show that will test how well the bride and groom know each other. Korn is not thrilled, but agrees to his future wife's proposal. The couple goes through several simple questions, but each time they answer incorrectly, demonstrating that they have absolutely no knowledge or understanding of each other. Vice is furious and interrupts the broadcast and asks Inan to solve the problem. The girl decides to have a heart-to-heart talk with Korn and learns that he was in love back in high school with a girl he saw at the bakery. Assuming that it is about Noina, Inan believes that her friend still has a chance. After learning that Inan has a boyfriend, Vice decides to do everything to ruin their relationship. Inan has dinner with Korn in the evening, and Noin joins them. Assuming that the guy will be more cooperative, the girl adds alcohol to his dish, but Korn literally falls off his feet. The girls have to drag him home, unaware that Ruth is watching them. He gives Inan a scandal, accuses her of cheating, and beats Noin, who stands up for her friend. Realizing that this man brings only pain and suffering, Inan finally breaks off the relationship with him, despite her feelings. Taking Korn to the hotel, Inan falls into depression, but the doctor, his best friend, and Noin do everything to lift the mood of the girl. While picking out a wedding dress, Vice shocks Korn, who will have to wear 5 different suits to the wedding. At one point, they find out that Vice has been exposed, telling fans that she is two-faced, deceitful, and a very bad person. Inan decides to rectify the situation and reconcile the couple by restoring their reputation. Noina feels like her friend is betraying her, but Inan actually helps her, knowing that Korn will be against excessive publicity.